Token 2049 in Singapore is my favorite premier crypto event. This two-day event started today at the amazing Marina Bay Sands Hotel. More than 200 speakers, 10,000 attendees, 300 exhibitors, and 400 side events. It's one that starts early and ends with a bang. They have a Formula One Grand Prix with fireworks. Tickets always sell out in a matter of days. The XRPL zone is there with Ripple and 5 hand-picked projects. Brad Garlinghouse spoke today following the opening ceremony, and they had a 40-minute discussion on the future of crypto among the regulatory uncertainty and what the path forward is. Tomorrow, there'll be a fireside chat. Now, today, I have the full clip from a Bloomberg interview. It's good. Have a listen.
The SEC Chair, Gary Gensler, and he's really just doubling down yet again on his reluctance perhaps to engage with the crypto community. We know that he's very bearish on the asset class in general. How do you deal with that when you're getting the same sort of response all the time from the SEC?
Look, I'll just start by saying I think it's super frustrating. You see markets like we have here in Singapore, certainly even what we're seeing in Hong Kong, the UK, Dubai, where the governments are partnering with the industry, and you're seeing leadership. They're providing clear rules, and you're seeing growth. And frankly, that's why Ripple is hiring there. 80% of our hiring this year will be outside the United States. My thoughts, I haven't watched the testimony from yesterday yet. I've read some of the coverage. And I guess my observation is one of the definitions of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and thinking you're going to get a different outcome. Gary Gensler's a hammer and everything looks like a nail. Just saying people need to register does not mean that what the law says is that these are securities. In fact, what we now have seen, at least in the Ripple case, is the judge in our case very clearly, succinctly said XRP is not a security, period.
I want to pick up on that because, for people that aren't aware, so your native token XRP, the SEC had said that it was going against the securities law. The US court ruled in your favor. The SEC has now indicated that it could end up appealing that decision. So what was your reaction when that news came through?
Well, on one hand, it's frustrating. You have a government that has unlimited resources to keep fighting a fight they've already lost, but there's no recourse. And so, for Ripple, we've obviously spent well over $100 million already defending this case. And we are very optimistic. The judge has already said very clearly XRP is not a security. What they have asked permission from the courts to appeal isn't actually whether or not XRP is a security. That is still clear. It's more nuanced about whether or not in certain circumstances, if there's a transaction, there'd be an investment contract. So I don't know what the court will rule about whether or not they're even allowed to appeal right now. But I remain very optimistic because I think as you go up the appellate court system in the United States, you actually get more conservative. And that, I think, bodes well. And at the end of the day, I said this a long time ago, the facts are on our side and the law is on our side. And we'll continue to prevail in court because of that.
I'm interested when it comes to, because you just mentioned the amount of hiring that you're doing, 80% of it is going to be outside of the US over the course of this year. When it comes to who is going to be the next crypto hub or define themselves as the global crypto hub, do you think that the door is permanently shut on the US being able to do that?
I wouldn't say it's permanently shut. It's definitely it's definitely a tough spot. The U.S. is still the largest economy in the world at 22% of global GDP, and so we will have a presidential election. There will be a change, or maybe there'll be a change. I don't know if Biden's definitely running. I don't comment on those things, but I think there'll be some shift as you see new administrations come in. I think eventually Congress will be frankly called to act. And I think the fact that the SEC continues to lose in court, there's another decision recently around a grayscale ETF conversion. Yeah. And look, the judges are using really harsh language about the SEC. In the grayscale case, the judge's ruling, there's an appellate court, a unanimous 3-judge panel saying that the SEC was being arbitrary and capricious. These are pretty harsh words for a government agency.
So in terms of your battle with the SEC, is this something that you think you would like to see reaching the Supreme Court, for instance?
Look, I would like closure, and I'd like to not have it, ongoing. I'm very optimistic that if the SEC wants to push this to Supreme Court, that'll be even a more final verdict that what Gary Gensler believes is not what the law says.
When it comes down to your profitability, because you're facing issues with regulators in the US, we've seen really thin trading volumes, very low liquidity in the space. How does that affect your profitability as a business?
Look, there's no question when crypto is going through its boom cycles that's a better thing for the whole industry. But Ripple has, I've been in the company 8.5 years, and every time we've gone through what are often called crypto winters, Ripple has grown. We're in a very strong position with a very strong balance sheet. As you mentioned earlier, we closed one acquisition earlier in the year. We have another pending acquisition right now. We're continuing to play offense in a whole bunch of different ways, and we're growing the business. We're growing our customers. We're growing our product suite. We believe that our customers are coming to us really seeking for us to be the infrastructure provider around blockchain and crypto technologies. And we started with payments, now we're in custody, we'll continue to expand beyond that.
When it comes to that acquisition that's pending, that's Fortress Trust,
yes.
And it's a crypto custodian. Overnight we understood that the CEO of Fortress Trust said that hackers had taken some money. I understand that Ripple has made those customers whole, but do you think that, firstly, all of the issues around the space have been ironed out, or they're being ironed out in terms of the vulnerability for security, and has enough trust really been regained by users of these products to spark some sort of movement back into the space in a meaningful way?
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to talk about. This particular compromise was about an end user compromise, a tool that certain customers were using to access their crypto got compromised. And frankly, that was through, as I understand it, kind of a spear phishing attack, which frankly, it affects crypto, it affects traditional banking, it affects securities. It's super frustrating when those things happen, and I think the whole industry needs to continue. I mean, the whole industry, not just crypto, I mean the financial services industry, because if the end user's accounts and credentials are compromised, there's always going to be risk, whether it's crypto or something else. But look, to your macro point in this, Ripple felt it was important to build trust with Fortress Trust, and we made those customers whole. That business has really done well, and I think are doing a great job of serving their customers, and we're glad to be able to support it and bring it into the Ripple fold.
On the regulatory front, because we have seen a lot of progress in other jurisdictions outside of the US, across Europe, the UK, Middle East, here in Asia, some of those frameworks are quite narrow in the way that they look at crypto. Do you think that also can be a challenge in the sense that, yes, you do have regulatory clarity, but sometimes the regulations are quite strict,
yeah.
And so it's also difficult to operate in those sorts of environments as well?
That is not something that keeps me up at night. You know, Ripple received here in Singapore an in-principle approval for our major payments institution licensing. We've applied for licensing something called VARA in Dubai. You know, the strictness doesn't bother me. It's the lack of clarity. If I know, and I think this is true for the whole industry, not just Ripple. Ripple has always tried to lean into regulatory, engaging regulators and being a good actor. It's when it's not clear what being a good actor looks like that it makes it hard. We're willing and happy to invest, even if it's strict, that's fine. What it doesn't work is, frankly, what the United States and Gary Gensler continues to propagate. Confusion masquerades as power to the SEC. The more confusion, the more power they feel they have, because they're just going to keep filing lawsuits.